So Rich, talk to me, when you're building a new trading strategy, a new system, and going out to the market, what's the biggest challenge for launching that strategy, and kind of how do you test it?
Well, you start out analyzing data. And as much data as you possibly can, you have to make sure it's reliable.
Yeah.
And then you have to program your engine, whichever way you set this up, to find patterns in the data that are consistent and that over a long period of time lead to results that aren't only positive, but that also are consistent with whatever criteria the market climate throws at you.
And where do you find this data?
Well, you can purchase this from a data vendor
Okay.
and really back to 1986,
Okay.
if you'd like to.
And in terms of then, kind of as a hedge fund testing this, how do you prove it to market participants? Do you have to just let it run for a while?
Correct.
Okay. And then in terms of kind of providing consistent returns, right? You see a lot of hedge funds, they come into the space, I get, performance emails from them, we have 700% returns this year, right? But it's about finding that kind of consistent returns over and over. How do you do that without giving away any secret sauce?
Well, 700% sounds nice, but
Well, yeah.
basically what you need to do is you need to run a back test first.
Okay.
I know it has a bad name, but you can't run a future test, so you got to run some tests, and this is what I call the lab work.
Okay.
And what you do is you look at the lab work over as much time as you can, and I mean at least 5 years, not less than 5 years. And then you take this into a simulated live account first. And then you see, okay, do these numbers make sense compared to what you had in your lab results, right? With the live feed coming in.
Yeah.
You make sure that your execution is correct, because that's also something you need to always monitor.
Yeah.
And then after 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 months, depending on what the results are, you will see, well, is my lab test being confirmed by what I see in the live environment? And then you can employ real money,
Yeah.
and then it starts to matter and to count. And what the time frame is always dependent on how consistent the back test is with the lab results.
Okay. And in terms of, as a hedge fund, how do you kind of risk manage, or how do you view risk manage? I'm thinking particularly in terms of something like Brexit, right? Where there's a known risk event, you don't necessarily know which way it's going to go. How do you kind of prep for that? Do you have to take any special steps, or is it just the system designed for it? Or talk me through that.
Well, this is a matter of opinion,
Okay.
right? I say that if you know that there is a slide risk coming, that there is absolutely no point to expose yourself or your clients to the risk, because it's really gambling.
Yeah.
Because if you don't know, you're either going to make a lot or you're going to lose a lot.
Yeah.
Why take the chance? There is no math to it. There is no reasoning behind it. There's no theory behind it. But you should also test, even if you stay away from it, you should test what would have happened.
Okay. So there's still lessons to be learned from these events, even if
Absolutely.
you're not active in the market.
I love these events from a point of understanding the extreme limits to my own model.
Okay.
What would have happened? What happens in the Swiss when that Swiss?
So let's talk about that then.
Yes.
That's a different case where it wasn't unknown, it was a complete shock
Correct.
to the market. What did you learn? What did you take away from that event then?
I took a lot away from it, other than my blood pressure going much higher. But really, what you understand is that the execution that you get in these events is nothing to do with what you model, because the market is simply not there. So what you have to do in terms of risk management is to look at always your extreme points in terms of exposure at all points, because you just don't know that you're going to be able to get out, which is what caused a lot of wreckage in the market. And so if you have too much leverage in any particular currency, well, theoretically, you can always at each and every point know what your downside risk is.
Yeah.
And you should, as a risk manager, know that and be comfortable with it.
And in terms of, one of the things that was highlighted after SMB was, liquidity kind of disappeared, right? And everybody's, well, certainly before the latest BIS, favorite statistic was, this is a $5+ trillion a day market, very, very liquid. Do you get a sense that that number is maybe slightly misleading in terms of, is that liquidity really there when the market gets stressed?
When the market gets stressed, liquidity is there.
Okay.
But it's not there in that capacity, and it's always a question of price.
Okay.
So, yes, the issue is, when everybody's on the same side of the trade, then you have liquidity issues.
Okay. That was great. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
Thank you very much.